So we got to the point where I had to switch coaches, and we both thought it was best for us. Just the way he was talking about more mindset than bodybuilding stuff, and that's what I'm biggest on. We just clicked. This guy's not just for show. He's the real deal behind the scenes. So,
and then it was like, no, I want everything. And I was like, whoa. And I don't think Chris understood so much of my system. All I want to do is go in there and tweak things.
I have to be better to keep winning. Like, I can't just keep doing the same thing.
I think the biggest thing is that when I've worked with athletes in the past, I always try to understand their bodies, both the chemistry, and the mindset. And I usually end up, and this was one of our first conversations that you and I had when there was a possibility of us working together, was that to get to know somebody,
time.
Well, you need somebody who communicates. You're different.
Yeah, I don't talk much. I'm a man of little words.
Right.
Which actually kind of works out because you can, I
can speak enough for him.
Exactly.
That being said, a lot of the different things that I like to look into is the mentality of the coachability aspect of an athlete, understanding how coachable somebody is. Because just because somebody had a coach in the past doesn't mean that they're going to be able to work within my system. I don't want to always work with everybody because I already know certain people's personalities because I've known them as a kind of a friend or just acquaintance, that certain people I'm just not going to jive with, and they're not coachable. Mm-hmm. I don't want to work with somebody who is going to not take my information, process it, and making sure that we have the trust in working together. And going back on the situation with Chris and I didn't get into this much detail I'm about to get into right now, but a lot of it has to do with making sure that the personalities jive, that I can trust you, you could trust me, so that we can make sure that the information is going to be utilized properly so that there's not frustration on either side. And on top of that, what makes things even more dynamic and difficult, with you, I was thinking to myself, okay, is he going to be open about training changes, possibly, nutrition changes, any of those things that I'm going to want to turn around and have input in when it comes to all the different aspects? And you've already had so much success. And I was trying to see, well, how much time am I going to need to be able to understand that so that you're not frustrated and I'm not frustrated? And then when I started talking to you, again, it wasn't a super huge amount of communication. And then that's when we started doing the FaceTimes. Yeah. I would get to know him.
I'm a huge believer in things happen for a reason. And it was the timing of it was very perfect. And I was so torn up of who it was going to be. Because first of all, it came to the point where I was pulling away from Ian's ability to be a good bodybuilder. Yeah. So we got to the point where I had to switch coaches, and we both thought it was best for us, which was a very difficult decision. I was like, fuck, I have no idea who it was going to be. I was looking around top coaches, and I always have a very doubtful view, I guess, on popular people. I'm they're probably just there because they had a few big time clients, they probably don't actually know. They have people's good genetics. They got lucky, I just don't trust people like that. I'm I'd rather someone who's in the bushes who, you don't know of, who's really smart and really good and people don't know about for some reason. And then I think it was at the Arnold, I guess, where me and Hany did a seminar together, and we just went back and talked, and obviously knowing he's the amazing stature, a lot of credibility behind him. And we got into talking, and just the way he was talking about more mindset than bodybuilding stuff. And that's what I'm biggest on. Yeah. People know me. I care more about my mind. I know how to train and diet, and I know I can learn more, and I know I can get better at that. And it's very physical, what I can apply to it, but learning how to change your mental state and handle pressure. And like you said, I've been winning for a few years, but am I going to choose to change things because I want to be even better? Or am I going to be stuck where I am and stay there, and then someone else might pass me? And the whole games that play into being a recurring champion is a lot of mental game. Yeah. And we talked about a lot of that, and I was like, fuck, this guy gets it. He dealt with champs before. He understands the mental side of it. And we wasn't even talking about coaching. We're talking about the changes you made with Derek, and how much his mindset had changed and how much you'd helped him physically and mentally. And I was like, fuck, I don't really feel like I need the big change, but if I can get better at stuff I'm passionate about, then that's even better. And that was kind of a trickle. And that was weeks after me and Ian fully decided that someone else was going to coach me, that I just met him. And I was like, fuck, that's a good coincidence, you know? And then Pittsburgh came around, and same thing. We hung out in Pittsburgh a little bit. Second time we ever met and talked, and it was the same thing. I got that same vibe. I was we just clicked, I was very quiet. He talked a lot. I would throw in a question, and he would go off on it, and it was telling me stuff that I was leaning in, super interested to hear about. And I was I want more of this. I feel like this could excel me as a human, as a bodybuilder, competitor, everything. So it's just kind of trickled from there, I guess. And I was like, fuck, I feel like this could be the guy that takes me to the next level. And as much as I didn't want to work with someone just because they were famous or they had popularity behind them, I truly felt it was more than that. Like I talked to him a few times and I have a pretty good gut instinct. And I was like, hey, I know this guy's not just for show. He's the real deal behind the scenes. So I ran with it.
The workouts were something that it was a question mark because he's so used to training his, I want to train my ass off till I tear something method.
It's worked.
Yeah, it's worked really well till now. Yeah. And for me, it was like, biomechanics and this and that. And
Did you say you started out with some FST7 workouts? That was kind of like one of the ways.
That was one of the first conversations that we had, was just going over just the basics of when the prep, because when we started talking, it was originally, like you said, about mindset and just giving some information. And then when Chris came to me and said, hey, look, I'd really like to work with you, but I don't think you realize it's not just that. I really kind of want to work with you at that level. And it was, when I said, what that level, what do you mean by that level? And he goes, everything, like the whole prep. And that's when I was kind of taken back. And I said, well, let me get back to you.
Yeah, he skipped the part there, but the first time we spoke, and I was telling you that what really clicked with me was like the mental side that I saw that he understood. I was like, we were like, maybe you could help me mentally with coaching and stuff like this. And he's like, oh, I'll be like, help you with your mindset. He didn't understand that I was kind of meaning when I asked him to coach me, like, coach me. And then he's like, what?
How do you feel about everything?
Well, because there was a little bit of talk about possibly just getting some stuff where if you want to come and maybe do a couple workouts, or if you want to do this, because it's a lot of pressure. So I just said, hey, I would love to be a part of that. If you want, to try to pick my brain for anything, I'm here, no problem. And then when it came to the point of us talking about the specifics, and then it was like, no, I want everything. And I'm like, whoa, I guess this is how a girl feels when you ask them to, this is a ring. There's some commitment here. I'm like, oh, this is a commitment. Then all of a sudden the trainer started working, like the wheel started turning, and I go, how am I going to have to worry about making sure that I'm going to be taking care of everybody 100%? How am I going to deal with the logistics? How am I going to do this? So for, I don't know, it was about a week, right? About a week, I kind of just said, hey, let me kind of get back to you and let me think about this, because it was something that I just kind of tried to pump the brakes on for a while, just so I can really make sure I take everybody in consideration. It's not going to take away from anybody else I'm going to work with, because again, I do get a lot of requests, and many people don't understand that. They go, oh, well, he didn't ask Hany. It's not that they didn't ask me. It's that I don't really make myself very available, because the fact of the matter is my formula can't be replicated at a high level. The amount of time and effort. And I think now that you've been through a prep with me, do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, definitely the prep. Yeah. But the peak week, I don't think you could have handled one more person in that for sure.
Yeah. I think in the very beginning, it wasn't a sticking point, but it was just point of reference was understanding each other. And I don't think Chris understood so much of my system had to do with just making sure that we try to work out the gym situation. Because he's been, again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. All I want to do is go in there and tweak things. So is there things that we can possibly do? Is there exercises? Is there fundamental biomechanics that might change a little bit? Maybe we can turn around and maybe take away a couple of those top sets, because he does have a history of tearing a couple different body parts. And now, you've strained your legs and whatnot. And that was the other thing. I think you had just strained your leg the last workout you did with Ian.
Oh yeah. I think that was in the middle of prep.
No, you announced the video.
No, that was in the middle of prep when I hurt my quad.
Yeah, it was right in the very, very beginning.
Yeah, but we were already working together, I think, at that point.
Yeah, but it was just very into it, just really the very beginnings. But that being said, I'm just always saying, okay, is he going to be open to trying some new things? And again, he's had a lot of success, so I don't want to reinvent the wheel. But I think that was one of the things that I really wanted to do, is just make sure that he was going to be open about trying things. But I think the minute we started going to the gym and he knew that I wasn't trying to change any of his, fundamentals, I wasn't trying to hang him upside down to train or do anything crazy like that, except for when we're doing vertical leg press.
Oh yeah, that was brutal too.
But when in general, it was things that I felt he felt comfortable with, but it was just those little minute changes that I think added up. And we were able to get better quad sweep. We were able to go into a lot of those types of things where I felt like some of those changes made some big differences on stage. I felt like he had that fuller, more voluminous look that I always like to have my athletes be more three-dimensional. And I felt like a lot of that, while being able to still make weight, while still being able to get that conditioning that we need and create that balance of size, separation, and fullness. And I think that was something that I really wanted to do. But in the beginning, I was really worried about that. I was worried about like making sure that we can do this. Because even early on in the conversation, he's like, oh no, I think I got my training. You remember saying that?
Yeah. I was like, I know how to work out. I've been doing this my whole life.
I've won 3 times. And I was like, yeah, but can we just, look at that? But he was open to it after. I think it was just,
I came into it very open for change. And my mindset was like straight up. And I told you like, yes, I've won, but like, I have to be better to keep winning. Like, I can't just keep doing the same thing. And I knew that. So I was like, fucking, tear me apart. And he did.